my Odyssey, and my audio. And we're also now streaming on Tim Osmond's platforms because he's paired up, I believe. I think we're paired up. And just let me just say hello to everyone. It is Sunday, March 10th, 2024. This is a COVID hoaxiversary show organized by johnlebon.com. And we do have special guests, Fake Nukes Phil and Tim Osmond from ips.monster. So everyone's here, and we are streaming live on fakeotube.com. But you guys can announce, or Tim Osmond for sure can announce where you can watch this as well.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks JLB for organizing this. We
Mm-hmm.
are on DLive, we are on Twitch, two different YouTube channels, and I posted links. We're also on my Odyssey. So if you go to ips.monster, there's a drop-down list of live streaming links. We're available on all of those, and we're also on a number of audio streaming sites. And I believe I see right now a lot of people are beginning to pull up here to the raft.
Okay, so John LeBon will be the host, because he organized this, and I'll take direction from him. And I think he said about 90 minutes, which seems to be a reasonable amount of time to allocate because we have so
Yeah,
many.
I'm happy to host if you want me to. Although I thought you were going to host, Ab, because I thought it's your platform and
Yeah.
you're very good at what you do. I thought you would be the host. But what I wanted to talk about, and I mentioned
Okay.
this in the email, is tomorrow is 4 years anniversary of 3/11, which to me, I would suggest that in some ways 3/11 is bigger than 9/11. So I wanted to chat with you guys
Mhm.
and maybe take some live stream comments and maybe some callers as well if you've got that facility available
It is.
to look back at the last 4 years and to reminisce about our favorite memories, about the things we remember. I've got this theory that most of the regular people, the masses, they don't really have memories the way that maybe some of us do. They've forgotten most of what happened, but not me. I remember a lot of things that happened 4 years ago. And 4 years ago tomorrow, Ab, was Dr. Tedros saying that this coronavirus can be characterized as a pandemic. So, with your good self, Tim, the fakeologist, and with Tim Osmond, the president of the Infinite Plane Society, and with Fake Nukes Phil, the very special guest, between the four of us, I was hoping we could have like a memorial or a anniversary, a flashback, a celebration, a commiseration of the last 4 years. Tim, what do you think about that?
I think this is important. I think we should do it all the time because 3/11, I agree, is bigger than 9/11, and 9/11 is still with us, and there's still people who misunderstand it. And this is, I think, the 9/11 of this next generation. And I think these are generational psyops, and it needs to be continually vivisected because it's a living thing.
So,
And I
is there some way that the listeners can leave comments if they're not previously using fakeologist.com? Because I love to read out the comments, and there's some good. We had some excellent commenters there on the warm up show. So, where can they go to leave their comments as they listen live?
Well, probably the best place if they want them to be part of the permanent video is on FakeOtube, fakeotube.com. They can just sign up and it's auto verification if you just verify your email. Otherwise, if they want to just see it on the screen and scroll by, they can come to the Fakeologist YouTube or the Tim Osmond YouTube because those YouTube comments are linked and they're showing up on the screen now.
Oh, so
And
you're streaming on YouTube right now.
yeah, I am on YouTube.
Awesome, awesome. Can I put a link to your stream? Because I don't want to stream this because we're going to talk about some very controversial topics and I don't want to be
Oh,
kiboshed
okay.
by YouTube. So if you tell me your YouTube stream, I can send them over there and I can read the comments that they leave in your live stream chat because I want to end my live stream because
Oh,
we're going
okay.
to get to some very controversial stuff.
You can type
And
fake11.com/YouTube. Wait, maybe not. Fake11.com/YouTube1. Let me just check. Yeah, fake11.com/YouTube, the number one. Fake11.com/YouTube, the number one. There I am over there. Those are all for all the YouTubers. And I will delete this off YouTube when the show's over. That's how I maintain the YouTube channel. But the FakeoTube chat is permanent. The chat turns into comments. And of course, I think Tim Osmond might have some links.
Yes, I do. My chats are all integrated, so whatever of my platforms you're on, it all goes into one single chat. So if you go to any of the IPS platforms, you'll see comments there as well. A lot of people like Twitch because of it's stable.
Yeah. But so the comments on Twitch, I don't have a Twitch. I got knocked off Twitch, but I haven't reinstituted. But I see the comments flying by, so we can read them there. I think.
So what I've done is I've put a link to your YouTube stream into the live stream comments of my stream. So I'm going to end my live stream in just a moment. And then anybody who's watching on YouTube can just click that link. You'll go to Ab the Fakeologist live stream, which is happening simultaneously. And he has the comment facility there, and we can read out your comments from
It's
his
too bad
YouTube.
you couldn't pair your Restream, because you're on Restream now. So if you just authorized your YouTube, it would bring all 50 of your people in here. And I don't think you'd be kiboshed on the fly. You just have to delete the video when it's over. So it's up to you if you want to pair in. You can pair in easily, as far as I know.
Yeah, I don't really want to be, because I want to talk about, the invisible body possessing demon. And what I want to talk about is what we've learned over the last 4 years and our suspicions about what's going on and why. And some of this stuff I think might get us kiboshed, and it's just not worth it. I've got like a 4,000, 5,000 subscriber YouTube channel. It's not worth kiboshing just to use YouTube when you've got your YouTube and we've got FAK853-Tube. And you see what I'm trying to say?
We've got a lot of tubes.
There's tubes all over the place. So what we're going to do is I'm going to end my live stream now. Big thanks to all the people who were there for this warm-up show with Tim Lawson from the Infinite Plane Society. We are now at FAK853-Tube and Fakeologist's YouTube and a whole ton of other places. So if you want to catch the rest of this show, that is the place to do it. But I'm going to wrap up my YouTube live stream right now.
All right. Let's ask Fake Nukes Phil, because we weren't familiar with Fake Nukes Phil back on 3/11/2020. So where were you on 3/11/2020?
I was at my job. Well, I got a call. No, I got a text from my supervisor saying, "Don't come in tomorrow." And I texted back because I had heard on the news that everybody was going home because of this pandemic. And I texted back, "Wow." And that was the last I ever heard from him. But I went immediately and got unemployment, and I got a big bonus, and and everybody I knew came up financially during that time. We were getting extra money, and it was like, this is costing the government a fortune. To even my friend who runs a business in Vegas, he got an extra $150,000 to do his payroll, and he didn't have any slump in business. He was still just as busy during COVID as before. So he was just getting extra money from the government too. I mean, everybody was getting extra money.
Hold time 24 seconds.
Oh, we already got a caller in her. Caller in her. Hello, where are you calling from? And what's your name?
Erie, Pennsylvania.
Erie, Pennsylvania. Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Good.
What's your name?
Excuse me, Mark.
Hello, Boogeyman. How are you?
Hey,
How you
Mark.
been?
I'm hanging in there.
Can you speak up a bit? Because I got you all the way to the top, but it's hard to hear.
Sorry. Is that better?
Not much. Do you have a comment on the fourth hoaxiversary of 3/11 for this esteemed panel tonight?
Well, I would like to say, I don't know. I just randomly saw you were talking. I thought you were talking with John LeBon.
Oh, no, this is much more than John LeBon. This is bigger than all. We got Tim Osmond. We got an all-star panel right now, so.
Yeah, Boogeyman.
Yeah, it's great.
I think Boogeyman's got his mask on. Could you ask him to take his mask off?
Yeah, pick a secret. Wow. Pick a secret square.
That didn't take long to create a fake narrative.
Yeah,
like, even your fake narratives are just.
Pick a secret square to say hi to.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a hoax. Something was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it wasn't like what they said, but like something was going on. Like people were dying.
Okay. Were they dying in excess of the way they were before? Because according to all the numbers that we think are real, the death toll for most nations went down in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just one guy. I don't really know. I just
Okay.
know for me, I can only speak for like my personal experiences, and just to me, it could just been, it could have just been, like the power of suggestion or whatever. But I did notice a lot of people dying, like more than normal. In particular, a close friend of mine died. Now, a common theme amongst most of these people that died was that they were kind of like in bad shape already. Like they were like, whether they're just fat or whatever it is. But nonetheless, I did notice more, and that was the thing I noticed that I would say is like, like people will tell me such and such died. I was like, well, weren't they, they were already in pretty bad shape.
Well, I hear you.
So,
all right. Can you just ask one quick question? Because I don't want to lose my esteemed panel here. So, could you just ask, do you have any questions of the panel here, or can we proceed with the show? I just want to keep things moving at a quick pace, if you don't mind.
sure. I mean, I don't even really know who's on the panel. Oh, I have one question, and then I'll leave.
Yeah, go for it.
Or listen.
Yeah, you're welcome to listen.
Mr. Tim Osman, right?
Tim Osman, IPS.monster.
He's created quite a name for himself. He's got quite the following, and like he's got himself a nice show and all that. And he has some pretty good takes in some regard. But the thing is, he's got a couple of turds in his punch bowl.
Okay.
And I would just like to ask him one question.
Go for it.
And we'll see if he can maybe, I'm going to offer him the opportunity to scoop out one of the turds in his punch bowl here. So
Okay.
let's see what he does with it.
Okay, go for it.
Let's see if he doubles down.
Okay.
Yeah, so Justin Bieber, as you like to call him, and the artist we know as The Weeknd, you don't really think they're the same person, do you?
No, the best we can say is it's fakeable, as in somebody could wear a mask and portray themselves as somebody else. The technology is so good, admittedly so by the CIA even, that it's foolproof. So there's no question that somebody could portray somebody else. That's not even, look, it's fakeable. That's all we can say.
That's with your girlfriend too, but that doesn't mean I am or I did, right?
Well, who would make that argument? That's silly. But we're talking about realms of possibility and technology that exists.
The whole Justin Bieber thing is silly. Who would make that argument? Stupid.
Well, someone would make that argument unless they had a reason to. And if you're asking the question of, is it fakeable? Yes. Look, do you agree that a mask can make you look like somebody else?
That's all I'm saying.
It has fakeability that you have to consider. And if you don't recognize the tools and tricks of the trade.
You could consider me having sex with your girlfriend, but it's ridiculous, right? Like, I could.
All right.
Like, I'm not going to, and I didn't.
We're going to move on now. We're going to move on.
Not worth talking about.
Okay.
Totally classy guy. Classy guy.
Thank you for calling. We're going to move on. We got to go with the show here. Sorry, guys. Maybe we should give the phone lines a 20-minute break before we get into that and get detoured. So we're talking about 311 tonight, not about anyone's girlfriend. So, John, what question do you have next?
Yeah, so that was fun, wasn't it? Did you guys not see that coming, by the way? Did you honestly not see that coming?
I don't screen the calls, so let's
as soon as you heard that it was Boogeyman and he hadn't even bothered to get his audio properly and he didn't even know who was on the call, that should have been all the red flags you needed to know that was going nowhere. Nothing against Boogeyman. I'm a fan of Boogeyman's. I've had him on the Conversations before. I find him quite intelligent and articulate at certain times. But when he calls into a 4-person panel show and doesn't even know who's on the panel, that's your sign right there that all he's going to do is waste our time, man. That's all he's going to do. And you know what? He gets off on it. He gets off on that. He likes to be the antagonist because it gets him attention.
I mean, Phil and I dealt with this on our Wednesday show. We had at least one troll take over our little broadcast for a few minutes, Phil. And
Brian Grossman, that was a good time.
Yeah,
and that was kind of entertaining, though.
Well, people do like to be entertained. Tim Osmond, how do you deal with trolls? Because you get trolled a lot on the phones.
Yeah, well, this guy's apparently a Justin Bieber fan. He's really triggered by what I said. I wasn't convinced that Boogeyman existed. I thought he was Tim Osman doing a
Oh,
voice, but you're saying it's actually a real person?
well, he's. I don't know, but what do you do with trolls? Because you get trolled a lot.
I do, but I actually invite them. I need that outside perspective, and then I
Yeah.
reverse engineer their arguments because I think there's a lot you can gain from it as long as they can remain civil and not delve into just totally crude metaphors, etc. But for the most part, I find trolls to be useful because they're
Mhm.
useful idiots for the other side, and they're useful for us who are trying to reverse engineer how the other side operates.
I agree. Okay.
Well, there were 5 questions, Tim, that I've put to you guys in the email planning all of this. So let me read out those 5 questions, and then you tell me what you think will be the most interesting for the audience, because you're quite the expert when it comes to radio broadcasting and what have you. So here are the 5 questions, and you can tell me where we should start here. Here are the 5. Number 1, it has been 4 years. What are your current thoughts or sentiments about this event that we call 311? So that's a nice softball question for you. Number 2, how often do you think about the so-called pandemic? Does it still affect your life directly? How often do you talk about it on your shows? How much do your listeners still care? Number 3, was there anything you got wrong in 2020 or later? What have you learned from all of this? Number 4, do you still think the so-called truth scene will be talking about 311 as much in the late 2030s as we were talking about 9/11 in the late 2010s? And that question might seem a bit convoluted. In other words, in 10 years, will people still care about 311? Will they? That's my question to you guys. In question number 5, and I think this is the most interesting one, the 311 sinks, such as Colony Season 3, Episode 11, and Seattle will be the ground zero for the reboot of civilization, right? 311. That's what we're talking about, Seattle. Then we find out that the first case of corona in the US was in Seattle. The Tom Hanks, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, that's a few weeks before 311. And Tom Hanks is the first celebrity to get coronavirus on 311. These kinds of things, what's your best explanation for these at this point in time? So those are the 5 questions that I put to you guys in the email leading up to this call. Of those 5, Tim, or abdafacologist, which of those do you think we should start off with for this show?
I say number 1. Let's just ask the question. We'll get a quick answer from everybody, so everyone gets equal airtime. I don't want anyone to dominate. So just
Are you
ask.
sure? Maybe we should get Boogeyman back on. Maybe we should give him
Just,
the central
just
platform for the
ask
first half hour of the show.
Ask the first question. Okay, I told you the phone lines are closed for a while. So go ahead. If anyone calls, just stay on the hold. We now have a good hold system. So let's ask number 1 again. We'll start with Phil and then go to Tim Osmond.
So question number 1, Phil, is it's been 4 years as of tomorrow. What are your current thoughts or sentiments about this event that we call 311?
I think it was all a hoax. I didn't see, in my personal experience, I didn't get sick. I didn't see anybody die. My daughter, however, did get a flu and she lost her smell and taste for 6 months. And that was the closest I came to. And so she quarantined at my house, and I wanted to catch it because I wanted to see what the fuss was all about. And we shared food and, out of the refrigerator and stuff. And I never caught it. And so she tested negative and she went back home. She didn't want to expose her roommates. And so I never caught it. And people at the dog park were saying they knew people that were dying from COVID, but I didn't believe their stories because they don't know how to vet. And I thought people were just, they're older people. I thought they were just dying from pneumonia, and they're just writing it. All the pneumonia deaths are being written down as COVID now. And so I noticed that women became very bad rumor spreaders, and they weren't vetting any of the information they were getting. And most of my information came from women. I say, you haven't vetted that information. I mean, it's just a rumor. And no, so and I saw the fake trucks in New York City, that the freezer trucks that were easily exposed. People were sending videos of the empty hospitals, and I so I never buy into it. However, so what happened was, after 6 months, when I saw the Tiffany Dover do that fake faint in front of that microphone, that was it. I said, okay, these people are pulling a stunt on both sides, because that wasn't. I mean, because I saw the hysteria that happened in the alt media. They were all freaking out, going, "Did you see that nurse who died on live camera after she got the shot?" And everybody in the 153 News and BitChute was just going hysterical. And it's like, if you can't tell that was the fakest feint in the whole world, well then you've forgotten everything you've learned from all these fake events, all these fake shootings, all these crisis actors. If you've forgotten everything, and your hysterical mind has taken over. And I wasn't going to allow my hysterical mind to take over. I knew the propaganda was coming on both sides. Nobody was dying, and the vaccine wasn't killing anyone either. And then I saw Joey Behar tell all of her viewers to go get the vax, and they were laughing at Trump supporters. Oh, those stupid Trump supporters aren't going to get the vaccine. And I said, well, these people aren't going to kill all the Joy Behar people. I mean, these are the people that actually vote for him and actually enjoy being communist. The Democrats actually enjoy living in a communist state. And it's like, they're not going to kill their own people. And so at that point, I made the decision, because I knew they were segregating us into two separate camps, and I said, I'm going to be in the camp that's going to win. I suspected that they're going to release a real pathogen, and the people who didn't get the antidote were going to be susceptible to this new pathogen. So I said, well, so I'm going to get the antidote. So I went and got the Pfizer, and I told my daughter to get the Pfizer. And because that's what all the Jews were getting over in Israel, they were getting the Pfizer. They're not going to kill their own people, and so and that was it. I did. You took two of the Pfizers. It was a double dose, and that's it. I haven't gotten any of the boosters or anything. My interest has lower now. I just don't care about the topic. People have used it as a weaponized term. It's like calling me a racist. People get in the comment section and they say, Phil, why don't you just admit you got the jab? How come you don't? It's like people, like, they use the word racist. Phil, why don't you just admit you're racist? Phil. So people are using it as a weaponized topic. And so since Phil got the jab, you can just disregard everything he's ever said. It's like, whatever, that's a communist tactic, and to silence speech. And I can explain my reasoning exactly why I got the jab, because and to this day, the mass die-off that all these hysterical people were predicting never happened. And so I expect an apology from Alex Jones and from all these hysterical media types that were predicting, oh my gosh, there's going to be 3 billion people are going to die. It's like all those people that were spreading those hysterical rumors need to apologize now. And it would. So what was the COVID thing all about? I don't know. It was just a weird thing. I think, honestly, the vaccine was a placebo. Honestly, I think so. What was the point of it all? It's a very good question. I don't know. I do know that we have all the prices have gone up now. All the gifts of free money they were giving us during that 18 months of free vacation they gave us, they're getting it all back in gas prices and in grocery prices. And so they're getting it all back. But yeah, your guess is as good as mine as to what the whole point of the whole thing was.
All right. Tim Osmond.
Yes. Yes. I will take a jab at this. I actually think I do know what the whole point of it is. But looking back at the past 4 years, I think it was about money and power and control. But we're moving into a new global atheistic society where they've replaced traditional values, but they don't want to give up that control. So I think what they've done is they've replaced the archaic concept of sin with the virus, and they've replaced the priesthood with the scientists, and it gives them the same power, and it divides society into the saved and unsaved. And that schism is a huge part of what I believe this operation was for. They never wanted to vax everybody. They wanted half to be anti, like Protestants to the main church. And so I think this was all about creating a war in the minds of the population and to put them against each other. And as far as in my personal experience, I didn't see any indication of a pandemic. I saw a fashion statement, PPE. I saw coercive, collectivist, peer pressure controls. I saw a lot of shame of the non-believers, misinformation, heretics. But to me, this was a mind war and the installation of a new religion. And I do think that the jab itself is a psychological warfare weapon, and it's part of polarizing the public. And I think there's a really fascinating correlation between the right wing's response to the vax and the response to the borders and the response to even extraterrestrial aliens. And it has to do with borders and boundaries. The left embraces government, the commies love government, and they're porous. They're like, vax me, open our borders, aliens come down. And the right's the complete opposite. So I think this was a divisive political psyop. And as far as the needle itself, I think anti-vax is controlled opposition. There was a guy in Germany who took 217 jabs, and he's still alive. So what do you say to that? I'm like, in all likelihood, any of the supposed instances of this thing is it's hypochondria or mislabeling the flu. And I don't think it was as bad as people make it out to be. If you look at how people made off, people got time off, they got money, they got stimmy checks. I kind of think 2020 was a mass delusion, nothing more. I don't think it was any more of a death spike. There was no death spike. I don't think it was any more of a severe outbreak than your regular seasonal flu, but they rebranded it. So it was a testament to the power of media to shape our perceptions. And that would be my take, that it was an installation of a new paradigm.
Okay. John LeBon, do you want to give your take?
Well, I'd love to, but first I'd like to read some comments from the live stream chat over at the Fakeologist YouTube, which is live streaming this right now. Boris Negrarosa says, why do Americans label everything they dislike as communism? I think that question is directed at you there, Fake Nukes Phil.
Fake Nukes looks like he just fell off the call, so you'll have to get that question later. Okay. Next.
All right, then. So Skate and Destroy says, my neighbors let their dogs poo on our lawns too. They are definitely commies. Yeah. Ab, do you have some antagonists who follow your work over at YouTube, perchance?
I don't have any work on YouTube, so I don't know about that. I don't think that was directed at me either. So I think that was for Phil. But Phil is
I can
now
answer
back.
as an American. As an American.
Oh yeah, you're an American. Yeah.
Okay. When we say communist, yeah. What we're talking when you say communist, it's like lowercase c, and it's a catch-all phrase for collectivist control freaks that don't believe in private property and believe that the individual person is basically a super spreader. We're a polluter. But anyway, so communist is collectivists who are anti-freedom. Easy.
I agree.
I think communism is the war against decent people, the elimination of decent people. Like in World War II, the Japanese were the most decent people in Asia, and the Chinese communists had to eliminate them. And that's why America went over and helped the Chinese communists win the war. And the Germans were the most decent people in Europe, and the Soviets wanted to destroy them. And so we Americans went over and helped the Soviets destroy the decent people of Germany. And General Patton said himself, when he got over to Germany, he said, these people are the most decent people in Europe. And he said, we fought the wrong enemy. And so, communism, you forget about the economic or the labor aspect of communism. It's a war against decent people. It's a satanic political ideology.
And the Christians are decent people, and that's why they do get slapped around a lot, because they don't fight back either. So I'm getting that feeling as well. But why don't we get back on topic, John, and answer your own question?
All right, so a couple more comments from the live stream chat, because I like to encourage this back and forth between us and the listeners. Matt X says,
well, I have another
we got
call
nothing in the UK.
You want to take the other call then? If you want to just...
Yeah, I want to take the other call, but let's take some odds first. I give you even money that it's Boogeyman again.
No, it's not. It's not Boogeyman.
All right, let's take the call. Let's see.
Okay, you have to... Okay, here we go. Okay.
Hold time, 3 minutes, 40 seconds.
Caller in, or welcome to the show. Where are you calling from, and what's your first name? Caller in, or go ahead.
Hey, it's Dusty.
Hey, caller in, or where are you calling from?
Look, I just wanted to say that Fake Nukes Phil is a complete moron.
All right, we're being trolled. He's using his girlfriend's phone now. Okay, sorry about that.
And you guys didn't see that coming, did you?
Okay, well, hey, let's go. Let's you
Oh,
want to
he might.
read some more? Yeah, go ahead, Tim. Okay. What's the question again? Let me answer the question. Can you repeat it? So refresh
Yeah, I'll
me.
repeat the question for you. And by the way, for the listeners, so what I did was I sent to my interlocutors here, to Tim, the president of Infinite Plane Society, to Fake Nukes Phil, and to Ab the Fakeologist. I said, guys, let's talk about 311. And I did have some structure plans, and I appreciate that Ab now wants to get back to the structure. The first question was, of the 5, it has been 4 years. What are your current thoughts or sentiments about what we call 311? And of course, 311, to some of us, hopefully all of us on the panel, 311 is like the term or the title that we give the whole thing. So the news stories about a deadly invisible body possessing demon because some guy had it bad in China, the rules and regulations and policies that followed, the claims in the alternative media that there was going to be a mass die-off due to my jibby jabbies. All of this comes under the umbrella of 311. So what I'm asking you guys and the listeners as well is, today, on the 4-year or the day before the 4-year anniversary of 311, broadly speaking, what are your thoughts and sentiments about 311? That's the question, Ab the Fakeologist.
Okay. Well, I think it was a tremendous operation to do many things, but I think the main thing was to create a biosecurity state because they want to bring in a whole managed worldwide economy, from a piece of dirt to a piece of cheese to a widget to a car to a tree. They literally think they have enough technological horsepower to inventorize everything on Earth and to control its direction and control every aspect of it. And that's an awesome, awesome, awesome task if you think about it. First, they got to figure out a way to pay for all that. And second, they have to figure out a way to get everyone to go along with it, because there's a lot of people that don't go along with many things that government wants to do. Mainly Americans. Americans are sort of the wild horses of the world, where Canadians and many other Commonwealth country people will do whatever you want them to, as long as it makes sort of makes sense for the collective. So you have to invent and prey upon people's greatest fear, and that is their fear of death. And they have done a time and tested method of getting people afraid, and that is this whole virus paradigm, which is a takeoff of the old demonology, where most people in the past thought when people got sick, it's because they were possessed by demons. So then demons have a very religious connotation. They know half the world, at least the Western world, is moving away from religion. So they have to invent another invisible thing, and that they call a virus. And virus has always been the catch-all when the bacteria that we can actually see weren't considered the cause, because they gave this thing called penicillin or antibiotics. They said, well, none of this works because it's a virus. So that's sort of the catch-all for we don't have any medicine for that, and you have to just go home and rest. I mean, most people in the Western world understand. They've heard that before. So they needed this. They needed this invention, and they really used their worldwide control of different outlets of the media in different countries. And it was a long process, but they finally figured they had the technology, they had the organization, and they had the worldwide gullibility based on old psyops of the past, like 9/11, JFK, the moon hoax. So they had a real good feeling that this was probably going to work. And they implemented it. And to be honest, if you step back as a non-fakeologist, the execution was awesome. You never saw such synchronicity around the world of even the deepest, darkest places following along with this program. It was just awesome. And there are very few organizations in the world that could pull this off. But the main one that most people are familiar with in the United States is the military. There is no bigger complex in the entire world than the United States military. So they had to be behind it, because no one else has the infrastructure, the organization, the hierarchy to do this. And turns out 4 years later, one of my favorite writers does illustrate how, using different laws, this was implemented to literally allow for a military coup in the United States and spread it worldwide, because who's in every country besides McDonald's? The United States military. They have an operating theater in every single country except maybe a few. And we are in year 4 of at least a 10-year plan, and it's working brilliantly still to bring in this biosecurity state. Now, whether or not you think that what the injection is toxic or not is really difficult to discern, because everyone has so many other complications and confounding factors. It's really very difficult to prove. Very difficult. But I still think that it is toxic to some people. And if I was implementing this, you would not poison the whole world at once. That would be insane, because you do need people, and people would realize it. But if you just poison a small number of people where it's really not discernible to the average death rate, maybe just bump it up just a wee bit, but just at the same time execute a medical test where you can try all kinds of different formulas in this permission that you got, because you're probably only going to get 2 shots per person, because people are going to catch on, the negativity will spread, and the experiment will have to come to a close where only the hardliners that believe in Western medicine are going to keep going. So you only have 1 or 2 shots at this whole thing, and I think they did implement it. So there are other financial aspects where they wanted to try a different economic model where they flood the entire world with excess liquidity of cash. And they've done that as well. And now we're seeing the results of that, which is just sort of a Weimar Republic where there's excess cash flying all over the place, causing massive inflation. And it's an ongoing operation, because most people, except our little corner, have not caught on to what's happening. It's so big. It's just awesome. You have to sit back as a fakeologist type and just marvel at the incredible scale and scope of this operation. And I could go on, but I'll leave it at that.
Well, we've got some terrific comments in the live stream chat. Linda Curtis says that 2020 allowed us to see just how much of the population are consensus driven. Did you find this, Ab the Fakeologist, that 2020 and how people responded to the supposed pandemic? Did you find that your faith in, or your confidence in, your fellow man, and this is for the whole panel as well, this is also for Fake News Phil and for Tim Osmond, did you find that your opinion of people changed following or during or following 3/11? And by that I mean, let me be more direct. Did you lose respect for human intelligence as a result of 2020? This is for the whole panel. Anybody can jump in here.
Well, I didn't, because I have been promoting the idea that 9/11 was a hoax since 2012. And I know my audience. I know it's very limited. I know the success rate of talking to other people is extremely limited. So this was a litmus test for fakeology, because now suddenly we can identify people by their facial hardware, i.e. the mask. So when they put on the mask willingly and promote the use of it, that to me was a great telltale sign that I didn't even have to ask what their thoughts were. Not even. So you could almost gauge the person's gullibility based on where they located the mask on their face. So if the mask was up to their eyeballs, they're hardcore. If they lowered it below their nose, they were just going along. If it was hanging off their chin, that they were just not willingly doing this, but they were just trying to make a really weak effort. If they had no mask at all, you knew that they know that something is wrong with the story and they're not buying it all. If they're running around with signs saying masks are a hoax, then for sure. So everyone identified themselves for at least a couple of months. It was brilliant. It was beautiful. Like, I would go up to a guy with a no mask and say, "What do you think about 9/11?" Almost instantly I'd get, "Yeah, that was an inside job at the very least." So
yeah,
everyone revealed themselves. It was great.
that is a good point. Yeah.
Phil, what do you think?
So, yeah, I just noticed the women really bought it, hands down, and most women. I don't want to talk about Miss Maskless. She's my friend on BitChute. I know she didn't fall for it, but but wow, I mean, the girls at the dog park, they just really thought it was real, and wow, it's like
Dog park.
and yeah,
Their
that's
dogs were wearing masks. That's when you really know they're nuts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's just, and I don't talk about it at all on my channel. It's just because I know the hoaxes on both sides,
Yeah.
and uh, and it's such a have got such strong opinions about it, and they'll call me a racist because I got the jab, and they use it as a weapon against me, and even though you know I I might get another jab if I suspect that they're going to release a pathogen. And the people who haven't got the jab are going to be susceptible because the jab is really an antidote. I might get another one. I'm not saying I won't because it's still in the back of my mind because the people that won't get the jab are exactly the people that they want gone because they're the ones who don't trust the government and who question the media. The commies don't want us around. And so you think you're going to be on the winning team because you outsmarted the commies? Let me tell you something, the commies always win. And you're not going to be on the winning team because the whole world's gone more communist and more communist, especially since 1991 when George Bush Sr. Mentioned the New World Order. What he was talking about is we're going to start because that was about the fake collapse of the Soviet Union, and everybody thought the Soviet Union had failed. It's like, no, it didn't. It just rebranded itself and renamed itself, and it's just been full commie ever. And they're not even hiding it anymore. They're teaching our kids all this gay shit in school, and they're teaching. It's gone full speed since 1991, and way worse. And people are noticing it.
Oh, Phil, your audio cut out.
It's like,
Oh, there you go. You're back.
okay.
Your audio
Am
cut
I
out.
back on?
Now it cut. I think your headset died because now you're
Yeah,
back.
yeah. I'm on my. I am having my my new computer cuts out, so I had to bring in my 2009 laptop as my backup. That's why I was out for a while. Good thing I didn't throw it away because somebody somebody got inside my computer and planted a bug, and so my new computer cuts out at random times. And so anyway, the 2009 is kind of working
as long as it wasn't the COVID bug.
yeah. So anyway, so that's how I think about what I think about the COVID, and I just kind of stay away from the topic.
Let's go for Tim Osmond next.
Yeah, to answer what he had said, did I lose? I wouldn't say I lost respect for people, but it was a wake-up call, 2020 vision, where I realized that Trutherville was 100% compromised by a very slick presence of establishment-friendly counter-narratives. My opinion, which stands even to right now, is that the pro vax and the anti-vax are two sides of the same coin, and they didn't want everybody to get it. They don't want everybody on the placebo. I think they want the division down the middle because it perfectly aligns with this division between trad right and progressive left on every single issue. But more importantly, I think that the virus and the vax is a red herring, that the real purpose to this was clearing our commons, not our air that we breathe, our physical environments, but rather cyberspace. Because you'll notice they went right from the pandemic into censorship and censorship of discussion about it. That was the agenda. So the fake virus came and went, but you know what's sticking with us? The infrastructure for censoring mind viruses. So they kind of distracted the anti-vax movement from what really was going after the First Amendment.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things like that they snuck in during this hysteria. When people are in a hysterical state of mind, they can get away with a lot of stuff behind our backs. And a lot of this propaganda, this news media stuff is all based on hysteria. And I think I know why. It lulls us into an even dumber down state, and they get away with a lot of stuff.
Panic.
So if I'm hearing you guys properly, you're saying that you didn't really lose too much respect or belief in your fellow man. So let me put it to you like this, how I feel about it, and tell me if this makes sense to you. Up until 2020, I understood that most people are fairly simple and they'll generally believe whatever the TV or the experts tell them. and they'll go with the crowd. I already worked all of that out in the years leading up to that. But it wasn't until 2020 and what followed as a result of 311 that I realized that even the more intelligent of the regular folks, even the more intelligent of the supposedly awake people, they're dumb as rocks. The lights are on, but nobody's home. And if they are told that there is an invisible body possessing demon on the loose because some guy ate a bat in China and now you have to stay home to save lives, and anybody who disagrees deserves to be banned from social media and possibly should even be put on trial for crimes against humanity for not going along with the agenda, the masses will believe it, they'll go along with it. And so, you know that meme of like, man who lost all hope loses last remaining bit of hope he didn't know he still had? That was me in 2020. I lost whatever remaining hope I had for the average person to think for themselves. 2020 took that away from me, and I'll never get it back. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, because if people are this stupid, better I learn this now at a relatively young age. I was like early 30s when it started. Better I learn this now than when I'm 40 or 50 or 60 and I've built a life around the idea that the average person can think. Because it turns out they cannot, at least in times of crisis. If you tell the people there's a crisis, out the door goes any logic. So maybe if you talk to a person one-on-one in a cafe or over dinner, sure, maybe you'll get some intelligent thoughts from them. But the moment there is a panic, a hysteria, and they think they're part of a collective fighting against an enemy, in this case, an invisible body possessing demon, at that point, there is no logic, there is no reasoning, there is no thought. This person is now an agent of the state, just like in the Matrix. That's my opinion. That's one of the things I learned from 2020. What do you guys think about that? Am I going too far? Am I being too cynical? Am I too black pilled? You tell me.
No, you know what? I think I was just saying he's saying that he lost respect for the average person, and I don't know if I'd use the word I lost respect for their intelligence. Like I don't think they're dumb, but they're clearly reality compromised in a bad way. And so I walked away from it realizing all these people who are following the news have basically become religious fundamentalists. They don't know they have a religious mindset. So it really got me to reset how I look at media. And now I look at it as the state church.
Okay.
Well, in the live stream chat, Benton says epic live stream, and there have been some terrific comments. So I know the time is relatively short. We don't have all the time in the world. So I want to get through these questions if that's cool with you guys. But keep the live stream comments coming through.
Did you answer
There's
the
some
question,
terrific comments in there.
So I guess you
did. I answer the question? Yeah, I answered the question. So
Okay.
I'm telling you, Ab, I'm trying to tell you, like man to man, I'm opening up to you here. I have lost this sense that the other humans, because I see myself as a human, I used to have a sense that even if we disagreed on certain topics, or we had different visions and dreams of what to do with our lives, or different political philosophies of how things should be, despite all of that, there was some common essence that I shared with these other creatures. And what happened in 311, 2020, and the years following that led me to realize I'm actually kind of isolated from the others. I can still go out and have fun with them. I can still go out and hang out with them, drink beers, watch sports ball, have dinner. All of these things, it's not a problem. But on a fundamental level, I am not with these people, they're not with me. And not just the normies, even most of the so-called awake people as well. And so that is something that I don't think I'll ever fully move on from, this idea of ultimately, when it's all said and done, the lights are on, but is there anybody home? No. In my opinion, the answer is no. That's just a simple fact I've had to face. So let's move on to question number 2 now, if that's all right with you, because time is of the essence here, Tim.
Yeah.
So question number 2, and this one we can just get through quickly because the real juicy questions are coming later. But question number 2, and this is for all of you guys on the panel, how often do you still think about the pandemic? Obviously, today we're doing a live show about it that we planned ahead of time. But outside of this kind of thing, how often do you think about the pandemic? Does it still affect your life directly? How often do you talk about it on your shows? How much do your listeners still care about it? So let's go to Tim first. Tim Osmond from the Infinite Plane Society. Then we'll get Ab and Phil's opinions on this. Basically, what I'm asking you is, 4 years on, how much do you think about this? How much do your listeners care about this? Does it affect your life? Let's go to Tim Osmond from the Infinite Plane Society.
Okay, it doesn't affect my life other than it's now just an accepted belief. It never got refuted effectively, so now it's just part of life. And I see it I see people wearing masks, and I'm like, okay, well, we can't change that. The damage is irreversible. Do I still think about it? No, it's stale propaganda. And I find the people who are still hooked on this issue just haven't moved on for some reason. But I think that not moving on is a mistake because they're already agenda, which is mind virus censorship. So it's to me, it's stale, it's old. I've moved on, and the listeners, the auto hoaxers, the IPS think tank, they're not perturbed by it, and they don't care about it. We all have pandemic fatigue.
That's a good word. You coined a good word. Who am I on? My mic out again?
Yeah, you can go. You
Why
can
don't you go
answer the
next, Phil?
question if you want.
Oh, okay. Is my mic on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that was a good word. Pandemic exhaustion, or what? Yeah. So yeah, I've got that too, and so the only people that care about it are the trolls who want to. They've weaponized it, like I already said, and so I don't care about it. I don't talk about it on my show, and it's the people that don't care about it are the ones who are like us. Just they don't give a damn what you do. They just care about what you say and whether or not you're spewing a bunch of nonsense or not. And so I here's my thought. Okay, I get the instinct that China rules over us, and they had to train us to be like little Asians, because the people in Asia have been wearing masks for many years, and China, our communist ruler, the one we helped win World War II, they had to train us to be like good little Asian people. And so now we are, and now they've got us to where we wear masks and we're scared of our fellow man. And then they'll bring it back. They'll make us wear masks again. I don't know when, maybe now or next year or something they'll do it. But yeah, we're good little commies now from our Chinese rulers. That's basically all I have.
Okay. John, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so let me answer the questions directly. So how often do I think about the pandemic? I would say almost every day the thought pops into my head, something to do with the pandemic, something about it. Not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, just something pops into my head. Bear in mind, folks, I'm coming to you from beautiful Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Were it not for the so-called pandemic, it's very unlikely that I would be here. I was traveling around Asia as a digital nomad when the planes stopped. I had just arrived in Kuala Lumpur when everything stopped. And so that was life-changing for me. And I get the sense that for most people, 311 didn't actually affect their lives directly anywhere near as it affected some other people. And I'm in that second group, the some other people. It affected my life directly. And I probably wouldn't be here in beautiful little Plovdiv, Bulgaria if it weren't for the so-called pandemic. So how often do I think about it? It pops into my head pretty much every day, I would think. How often do I talk about it on my shows? I make jokes about it. Like I like to impersonate Dr. Tedros, where he says the coronavirus can be characterized as a pandemic. I'll throw that in there every now and then. Or I'll add in sound effects from like, the film Larry Crown with the character Lance Corona played by Tom Hanks. There's a scene in there where he doesn't turn up to class one day. This is a film from 2011, by the way. There's a scene where the Tom Hanks character doesn't turn up to class, and then the Rami Malek character is wearing a vampire costume. And so Julia Roberts says, "Hey, who's skipped my class? Where's Larry Crown?" And the Rami Malek character turns around. He's got fangs in, and he looks like a vampire, i.e. a bat. And he says, "Maybe he got the flu." Right? And that's a film from 9 years before 311, by the way. So sometimes I put that sound effect in my content. So 311 is a constant part of me, doing impersonations or using sound effects. So it comes up in my content a lot. But how often do we talk about it on the member calls? These days, not so much. I think it's like, what else is there to say, generally speaking? So these 311 special episodes, which I hope that all four of us and maybe more people will be here in a year's time and 2 years' time. We'll keep doing 311 specials, I hope. But outside of that, in terms of going into great detail about it, I don't spend that much time talking about it these days. So I think I've answered that question. How about you, Ab? How often do you think about the pandemic? Does it still affect you directly? How often do you talk about it on your shows? How much do your listeners still care, Ab the Fakeologist?
Well, I talk about it all the time still. I do a Monday show called allshotsclot.com because I was into vaccine damage before 3/11. Not really in a major way, but I was already looking into the AIDS hoax because I was looking into hoaxes anyway, and the AIDS operation was another really well done psychological operation. It really was. It's pretty complicated. It was back in the 80s, and it's still running today if you think about it. But now it's obviously taken a back seat. So I've always thought about it. Now, I do think that my daughter is vaccine damaged. She hates me saying those words, but I really think that one of the most severe consequences of any kind of end vascular ischemia, which is what vaccines create in the body, is type 1 diabetes, which is your pancreas is essentially dead. So unfortunately, as long as I live with her, I'm reminded of that every day. So I'm looking for a scapegoat. And I really haven't found a better one because if you look at the official causes of type 1 diabetes, they say genetics, which of course is insane because in my case, no one ever anyone in our extended family has even any kind of medical diabetes at all. None of us have nobody. So that to me is just another BS cover story. So that reminder is always in my head. Now, if I wasn't electronically attached to her where I can just monitor her blood glucose every day, I might just back off. But I just don't at the moment. I'm still obsessed with it, and she's been diagnosed for the last 3 years. So it really makes me crazy cuckoo because I can see the dollar signs because I'm paying for this financially as well.
I feel for you. I know my niece has nephew. I mean, my step nephew has type 1 diabetes, and he's 16 years old. They just diagnosed it.
It's a life sentence. There's no way out.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah.
It's a life sentence. It generates at least 25,000 a year for big pharma, which what I call them. And so that's my main impetus, to be honest with you. And she's not a supporter of my theory at all. But that's okay too. I don't need any more support on that because I've got it in my head and it's not going to be purged out of my head. So because of that, I look at this whole operation on a daily basis because I really do think that all vaccines are toxic. I think they all cause a different level of harm, and they've been doing it for a long time and getting away with it. So I would like to see the end of it, but I know that's not going to happen anytime soon. But so that's my impetus for talking about it all the time, and I don't really need any. It's not really a fakeologist topic perfectly, so I have isolated it from my main blog and put it on its own blog because I know people are sick of talking about it, especially Americans, because they got a very low dose of the COVID hoax. The operation in the US didn't last more than a couple months. I know it's different in different states, but I would say for the majority, the heartland, especially outside the cities, it was a month-long inconvenience and a bit of a joke. So where I live in Ontario, it was a 2 to 3 year operation. And because we are in the center in Toronto of the medical mafia, they weren't going to let their foot off the gas here. They really had, because all their actors were based in Toronto, all the schools that were funded by Big Pharma, they had to make it work. So they were not going to let off here. So I was particularly affected. I suppose if I was in Bulgaria, which is a second or third world country where they don't have the money to promote it, I can see that it wouldn't really be a big deal because without promotion, this thing would have died within weeks because no one saw any evidence of sickness. And most people, they don't see any clear and present danger. They move on with their lives. So that's why I keep doing it. I keep talking about it. Fakeologists, probably not so much, but there are, I would say, a subsection of fakeologists and other people who aren't fakeologists that are interested in the topic. So I do talk about it about once a week, and I don't really see where I live because I also take care of my mother-in-law, and these people are also the number one victims, and they're still playing the masquerade game this week. And it does affect me because I will not wear the mask. I will not comply. I do not believe I'm contagious. But I have to deal with it on a weekly basis if I want to get in the old age home. And it's happening even in our hospitals. There was just a video today or last week where a woman went to a Toronto or an Ottawa area hospital. Ottawa is the capital of Canada. And she was told she couldn't get a mammogram because she would not wear the mask. So the COVIDians are still alive and well where I live. They are still pushing their cult, and it is still bothering people. So as soon as I see it all subside, and I don't see it subsiding, I'm going to still harp on it because I still think it's a big deal.
And how about your listeners, Ab? So obviously you do your regular shows and you've got the audio chats that anybody can join and discuss things live on the air at fakeologist.com. When
Yeah.
you're doing your shows, do you have any sense of what percentage of your audience still wants you to talk about vaccine injuries and these other things? Is it a minority of your audience? Is it half of them, the majority of your
Well,
listenership? How many of them still want to keep listening to this kind of stuff?
I would probably say not very many because most of my listeners are American. And then it goes UK. UK is being bothered probably on a larger scale than Americans. So UK people maybe, but I would say Americans are done with it. Maybe California, maybe New York State. They have more communist administrations because they want to really integrate into this new world order faster. I know Phil is in California. He can probably speak to that better because I don't follow his gubernator out there and what he's saying. You can't follow every clown in every jurisdiction, really. So I would say that's the answer. Not most fakeologists are done with it, and I don't blame them. I'm done with it. I don't like talking about it, but it's still in my face over here where I live.
Just quickly, can I ask Tim Osmond the same question? Because we need to move on to the next question in just a moment. But first, this one, Tim. Of your audience, do you get a sense of how many people want to hear you talking about the topic? Like, obviously, it will come up every now and then as a tangential thing. But in terms of focusing on it, do you think some of your audience still wants to hear about it? Do you think maybe half of them, like roughly, do you get a sense of the proportions of people who still care?
Okay, I've made it an effort here to quarantine the skeptics from what I consider to be alt media or MSM plus, and I consider the anti-vax issue to be part of the mainstream media ecosystem. In other words, it's part of the controlled opposition. So I've made an effort to actually outgroup or screen out those who still cling. It's like the fake death counts. I call them death clingers. The people who say, I know somebody who knows somebody who died. I'm like, okay, that's not evidence for my standards. So they can't sit with us. So I've been exclusive, but I do have a few militant anti-vax types who really want to have a voice. And I'm like, you know what? You don't have a case because we're going from pure skepticism. So specifically, the audience of the IPS is inoculated against that propaganda, and there's not a demand for it here. And if somebody is demanding it, it's like, you got to go to Trutherville because we don't serve that here.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, Fake Nukes Phil. I know that you have been producing content for a shorter period of time than the other three of us on the panel.
Mm-hmm.
And you have produced over 1,000 videos. You've uploaded more than 1,000 videos on your BitChute in just a couple of years, which is crazy to me. Of your audience, do you have any sense of how many of them still care about this 311 stuff?
I don't get a sense they don't care about it, and they don't. Yeah, we move on. I mean, we're ready if they try to do it again, and we are ready to go. But I think most of my audience agrees with me that these people that were on TikTok and pretending to have adverse reactions from the vax, those videos look fake. I couldn't believe it. That's why I left 153 News, is because they were taking all these videos from TikTok as if they were real. It's like, can't you see that person is just pretending to have a convulsion? Like they would say, "Oh, I just took the shot an hour ago, and now I've got this twitch in my eye," and it's like, and you could tell that the person doing the video was just twitching her eye on purpose, but yet 153 News just fell for it, just right into the hysteria, and plus Jason Boss wouldn't let me upload there because I think because he thinks that secret Nazis rule the world. And it's like, no, Jason, the Germans were soundly defeated. There are no Nazis ruling the world. The people who destroyed Germany are the ones that are ruling the world. Okay, so let's get that clear right now. I know that's a topic that many people get tripped up on, but no, Germany was the last stand against this evil empire that produces all this fakery and all this Soviet propaganda that we're subjected to on a daily basis. So anyway, so yeah, so that's why I spend most of my time on these, like the Israeli war and the Gaza. This thing in Gaza is just the fakest thing ever, and so it opens up, because we never noticed it before. You know, it's always been fake over there. Well, actually, we have noticed it because we were exposing the ISIS hoax. You know, those beheadings were fake. The James Foley, it was fake. And we were exposing the Syrian war, and that many of the buildings there in Aleppo were just old buildings that they were just blowing up, and they were giving us misinformation. The gas attack at Duma was a laughably fake event, and so but now this Gaza thing is just taking it over the top. Okay, now they're making it so obvious that it's fake. It's like, now the whole thing's been fake. Ever since the Jews moved into the Middle East back in 1947, it's been a Hollywood studio. And that's what they turned it into. And all of these conflicts have been fake. Even the USS Liberty that so many people just focus on, that was fake. And so Israel promotes propaganda that makes them look like the villain, but they don't care. Just as long as they get everybody hysterical and make you hate the Jews, because the more you hate the Jews, the more money they make. And so they don't care if you hate the Jews. And that's a lot of something that a lot of people on BitChute have a hard time understanding. So anyway, and so that's why I kind of stick over there. And if they want to bring up another pandemic, well, then we'll be ready for it, But anyway,
Question number 3.
And all right, question number 3. Before I get to that, by the way, though, so in the live stream chat, Zintrax said that what JLB said about the experience of 311 and losing hope for the average person. Zintrax said that what JLB just said was my biggest takeaway from 2023-11. And I appreciate Zintrax saying that, because I get the sense, even though we were all there and we all saw the masses going completely nuts and showing us with their actions that the lights are on but nobody's home, I think a lot of people have forgotten that, or they've compartmentalized it. Probably because it's easier. It's probably easier to live day to day pretending as though you're the average person, that there's some thoughts going on there, right? It's probably easy to believe that. So people have forgotten what they went through just a few years ago when everybody around you turned against you because the TV told them to turn against you. Probably easy to forget that. Whereas I haven't forgotten it. I can't forget it. It's like I'm that Japanese soldier on the island that people are telling me that the war's over, but not for me, man. I'm never forget. Anyway, let's move on with question number 3 then. Now we get to the juicy stuff, guys. Now we get to the real juicy stuff. And I did send you these questions in the email ahead of time, so I'm not springing this on you. Question number 3 of the 5. Was there anything you got wrong in 2020 or later? What have you learned from all of this? So in other words, 311 happens, and some guy ate a bat in China. There's an invisible body-possessing demon on the loose. The planes have stopped. People are told not to go to work. People are told to stay home. There's all this madness going on. And I think most of us got at least one thing wrong, multiple things wrong. We didn't know what was going to happen. Are they going to put the dissenters into camps? Are they going to shut down all the countries forever? Are they going to force us to get biometric passports or things implanted into our bodies? Is this the beginning of a one world order totalitarian takeover expose where they show us? We didn't know what was happening. So I think all of us were sort of just trying to make the best sense that we could of the information that we had. So what I'm asking is, back in 2020, did you get anything wrong in terms of what was going to happen next? Because I certainly did, which I'll talk about in a moment. But let me throw first. Let's go to you first there, Tim the Fakeologist. Ab the Fakeologist, I should say. Ab the Fakeologist. Looking back, was there anything that you got wrong following 3/11/2020? What you believed was going to happen or what was coming next? Did you get any predictions or prognostications wrong?
I didn't really make too many prognostications. I did say at the beginning this is going to be a 10-year operation. I didn't really know how it was carried out until maybe a year or two into it, but I didn't make too many predictions to go wrong, so that made it pretty easy. But I did detect that this was big. It was for the long term, and it's going to be way bigger than 9/11. I figured I was going to be talking about it for a long time, so I registered a couple domains because I figured they need to stay up there somehow, some way. So that was how I knew it was not just going to be a quick one. But overall, it's really happening just as I thought it would. I was really hoping that the vaccine mandates would go away, but that one I just didn't make I didn't put a date on it. I just figured you're gonna have to weather this out. If I'm right and they are hurting people, then I figured that enough people will get hurt and that the masses will turn on them because unless the masses realize what's happening, there is nothing the minority can do to stop this. You're just gonna have to dodge bullets, stay out of the way. Um, so I I just don't know what's next for this operation. I really don't. But I had a million ideas for what this was all about, and most of them are still happening. So really, I didn't make enough predictions to worry about being wrong because I just didn't really make any. But I just the main one was this was going to last 10 years, and we're only in
Did you ever fall for the idea that there would be a mass die-off due to my jibby jabs? Did you ever promote that idea?
No, I never said it was be a mass die off. No, but
Did you
I
ever think there would be?
no, no. I just thought it would be more of the same of the normal. I thought the main difference was now they're vaccinating adults en masse. When you do children, especially babies, they can't give you any feedback. You just have to wait and see what physically happens to the baby. But overall, you're never. I was really hoping that this would be the end of vaccines. If this turned bad, I was hoping enough people would wait because I think people were realizing with the rise because the main topic with vaccines was autism before this started. And I don't think anyone here can deny that it is widely accepted amongst the population that autism is on the rise. There are more little children being drugged up because they have some kind of damage due to the industrial medical complex. So I think there was an awareness growing. I don't think it was enough to stop, but I really think that was happening. So I was really hoping that now that adults were getting shot up, that they could speak out where the children could not. And even if a child could say, "I'm not taking this," unless you're 18 or you can have a way to divorce your parents, you don't have a say in what's going to happen to you. So that makes it up to adults to really do the talking. Because before, children could not speak out at all. They still can't. They're still victims of their parents' paranoia.
Well, there's a terrific comment in the live stream. Harks, Harks says, I thought it was all about 5G and the jab was the cover story. Do you guys remember this? How 5G in the truthosphere back in 2020, the 5G was a big thing. Always the 5G or the 5G is going to mix with the vaccines or the vaccines are a cover story and the 5G is going to do this or do that. Do you guys remember this? This was huge just a few years ago. This was like everywhere you turned in the alternative sphere, somebody was talking about 5G.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I saw all the hysteria over 5G. Yeah.
Well, the thing that I got wrong, I'm happy to tell you guys that I got wrong, and I've gone back and listened to the Fakeologist audio chats from that period of time. The main thing I got wrong was when the planes all stopped, and then when they'd been stopped for months and months, I started to believe. So we're talking like the middle to the later part of 2020. I started to believe international travel as we knew it was finished. Maybe it would come back, maybe with some other passport requirements or something later on. I didn't know, but in my mind, for like cheap international travel as we knew it, that was done. I actually believed that at the time. And clearly I was wrong. And I'm happy to admit that I was wrong. Sometimes I get things wrong. Let's go to not Fakeologist, let's go to Tim Osman, the president of the For Plain Society. 2020 and subsequently, was there anything you believed or predicted that you got wrong?
I think what I got wrong initially was I didn't think that they would be able to pull off an actual lockdown. I underestimated the compliance. But here's what I got right. I looked at 3/11 as they didn't brand it like they did 9/11. 9/11 is all about that date, but nobody really called the pandemic 3/11 except for us. And I don't think they wanted it to be branded that way, but I recognize that this is going to be the 9/11 of this era. 19 years later, after 19 hijackers, you get COVID-19, and I was like, this is going to last another 19 years. Was my thought. So I have no illusion about this going away. I just thought this is going to be the installation of this new order. I did say very early on, in fact, 3 days before, I said World War III will start on Wednesday. We predicted 3/11, ground zero, everything would begin in Seattle based on predictive programming. So one thing, on a side note, it kind of affirmed and vindicated that predictive programming is a viable way of reading what they're going to do in the news. I predicted there would be no die-offs. I was right. I predicted there'd be no waves of deaths. I was right. I predicted that there would be no FEMA camps, but there'd be ubiquitous home incarceration instead. So I would say I wasn't wrong about my assessment, and I'm still not wrong. I haven't seen the pile of corpses. I haven't seen the waves, and I haven't seen any indication that there was any kind of a death spike. So I would say my bigger picture was optimistic. I had people saying, "Oh, are we going to be locked down for good?" And I'm like, "Nah, it's going to wear off at some point." So overall, I would say I was not tremendously wrong, but I vastly overestimated the power of media to do a War of the Worlds type scenario and get everybody to panic.
Did you have many of your listeners or people sending you messages telling you they thought the vaccines were going to lead to a mass die-off?
A ton of people. I got nonstop. They're like, it's going to happen. I called people out on it consistently. And by 2021, I was tired. I coined Vaxageddon because I'm like, this is just another neo-eschatology. It's not going to happen. And, one thing I want to point out, because I believe this is all political, I think that the way that the left views the AR-15 is how the anti-vax right views the COVID-19 shot. And it's all about saving the children because they can't speak for themselves and going after the manufacturers. So the left is always like, oh, we got to go after Armalite. They're rabid against gun manufacturers, whereas anti-vaxxers are all about Pfizer and all these different companies. I think that it's guns versus needles, and these are psychological operations 100%, and that's why we haven't seen die-offs, and that's why nobody is really getting killed in any of these mass shootings. Fake deaths. This is all atrocity propaganda. That's my big takeaway, and I'm glad I was right in my prediction that there wouldn't be a die-off.
Yeah, we all are.
Let's go to let's go to Fake News Phil. Was there anything that you got wrong about 2020? Which, by the way, I'm trying to make it clear to people. I got stuff wrong. I think we all did. Some of us just don't think about this as often or remember it as well. But none of us knew what was going to happen next, and things were crazy. So it was natural that we started to wonder what's coming next. Because it was at 3/11 when they said that this coronavirus can be characterized as a pandemic. It was around that time that the sports all stopped. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was around March 9, 10, 11 that the Formula One stopped, and then the football stopped, and the basketball, and everything just stopped. And then they started locking people down. Up until that point, a lot of people didn't believe lockdowns could happen, and suddenly they did. And that's when people started to think, what's coming next? So it was natural that we were starting to speculate, well, geez, how far is this going to go? So Fake News Phil, did you make any predictions back then that fortunately didn't come to pass?
I just predicted, well, I probably wouldn't, looking back, I probably wouldn't get the shot again. I mean, I was so certain because when I saw how they segregated us, I saw the two different sides, the conspiracy, the Trump supporters and the conspiracy theorists are on one side, vehemently against the vaccine. And then I saw all the liberals, all the Democrats, all just eagerly wanting to get it and just clamoring over each other to get the next shot. And I said, wow, they don't want to kill those people. So I guess I got fooled by that. But I really thought they had it segregated. They're going to kill the conspiracy theorists. It's like they're going to release a real pathogen. And this vaccine is really an antidote for this pathogen they're going to release. Sort of like the anthrax when the soldiers went over to Iraq and we inoculated them with an antidote to anthrax before they went to Iraq. So I thought it was going to be that kind of a situation. But so I was wrong about that, and I went and got the vaccine. And people say, well, Phil, if that was the case, then why would you want to live in a world with all those sheep and when all the good people have been killed off by an anthrax pathogen? I said, well, because I want to live to fight another day, because then if I could get to the other side, I could say, look what you did to all those people that got the vaccine or didn't get the vaccine. I mean, you tricked them into not getting the vaccine, and then you release a pathogen. And so I was going to be that guy who to get to the other side and expose the game. But so apparently I got that wrong. I didn't get any ill effects from the vaccine. I mean, but I still probably wouldn't get it again. So that, and so in the meantime, I'm just trying to, the worldwide media has been controlled long before COVID. They've been lying to us about outer space. They've been lying to us about nuclear weapons. All countries of the world are involved in the nuclear weapons hoax. All countries of the world are involved in the NASA outer space hoax. It's so this is not new. It even goes before the war, when they were doing the gulags and the Holodomor. You know, the world did not hear about that because the international media was controlled even back in the 20s and 30s. And so this goes way back. And so the COVID is just yet another international hoax where all countries participated in it. It's just more normies saw it this time. And it's like, okay, good. I'm glad you're seeing that the international media is controlled. But now start applying it to all these events, because all these events are controlled by, there's a singular mind that is controlling the international media. And so countries are not countries. There is no such thing as a country anymore. There's no separate, we're all under the rule of one evil emperor. It's like Star Wars almost, really. And so I'm glad that COVID woke up a lot of people to the fact that our international media is controlled. So I guess
I'm not sure it really woke that many people up. We can talk about that later on, though. We need to get on to the
Okay,
questions
yeah.
because time is getting away from us. Just quickly, though, in the live stream chat, the Sire girl said Osterholm, she's talking about Michael Osterholm, appeared on Rogan. The NBA cancelled their season the next day. 2 days later, Trump declared a national emergency and appointed his Corona task force. Yeah, so the Sire girl is one of these people who remembers what happened. They remember how in the space of a few days, it went from some news story to actual real life. The sports that we love are gone. Some of us love are gone. The jobs that some people work can't go there anymore. The freedoms that you thought you had, forget about them. And of course, at first it was 2 weeks to flatten my curves, but it didn't pan out that way. But that's what happens. And I put to you guys, and I put to most listeners here, if you remember this chain of events, if you remember the chronology, you're in the minority. Most people don't remember this stuff the way that some of us remember it. If you tell them, oh, do you remember how this happened? They'll be like, oh, yeah. Like, if you prompt them, they'll be able to tell you something. But in their own mind, there is no chronology of events and the sentiments at the time and how things changed. That's not how the average person's memory works. That's not how their minds work. I'll put to you that's because the lights are on, but nobody's home. Okay, let's move on to question number 4. Let's say, who should I throw to this time? I'll throw to...
I can throw to you.
Well, okay, I'll answer this one first. This one's question number 4. Do you think the truth scene will still be talking about 3/11 as much in the late 2030s as we were talking about 9/11 in the late 2010s? So in other words, on YouTube, there was this so-called truth movement circa 2012, 13, 14. That was on YouTube, people talking about the hoaxes and the fake shootings, whatever. And then there was fakeologist.com, there was Hoaxbusters Call, there was countless blogs and other places where people still spoke about 9/11. That was still the biggest event up until that point in time. So even by the late 2010s, 9/11 was still the big thing. What I'm asking is, and that's 15, 20 years afterwards. So what I'm asking is, do you think people, not including us in our yearly anniversary get-togethers, not including this kind of thing, outside of this, do you think people will still be talking about 3/11 as much in 10 years as people were talking about 9/11 a few years ago? My answer is no. I don't think they will be. I don't think this will be the big thing. I think either something else will have happened by then, or most people will have forgotten, or they'll have tried to forget. It won't be a big thing. Some people will talk about it sometimes, but it'll be over. And I've got reasons why I believe that. But first, let's go to Ab the Fakeologist. Do you think people, not just you or me, but people in general, will still be talking about 3/11 as much in 10 years as you were talking about 9/11 5 years ago? That is 15 years after the fact.
Well, I think they might not be talking about it directly, but indirectly, yes. I think they really wanted to, just like the climate change hoax, they really wanted to get the young people into this whole mindset that you can get injected and get your health. They really wanted people to either completely reject the quacksine or completely embrace the vaccine. And that is the deliverer of health for them. So yeah, I think they might not be talking about. Yeah, I think the worldwide lockdowns. I think it was a worldwide event. I can't think of one event ever in history because of technology that was worldwide and so synchronized. So I still think people will talk about the masks and the lockdowns. I don't think there's going to be a worldwide lockdown. I just don't think it'll work again because there's no reason. There's no reason. There's enough dissent out there to probably trip it up. Even if they want to do a climate change lockdown, I don't think people buy into that either. It's just not visible in any way. There's no evidence. Like Phil says, show me the bodies. Just show me the proof that the water levels are rising. There's no proof. They can't make that proof up enough on a worldwide basis. So I just don't think we're going to see it again. So I think just the 3/11 event, the whole month for the most part, or at least 2 weeks, the whole world was frozen in time. It was a bizarre sight. It was really dystopic. It was amazing actually to see tourist traps and all cities all around the world just completely empty. It was bizarre. But the fallout is going to be forever. And whether they'll be able to keep up the masking and the vaxing remains to be seen. I hope not, but I just don't think it's going to end. So I think I think people will still talk about it for sure because people, at least in our community, are still talking about it. I don't know about normies because I don't hang out with them, but there's still a lot of lingering effects going on to this day. But the
Yeah, but
point
what about in
was,
10 years, bro? So 5 years ago, right? Let's say 5 years ago, 2019, your website still had as its background image the
yeah,
Twin Towers with smoke coming out of them.
yeah,
And you still talked about 9/11 relatively often. It was, sometimes you would even say, this is a website dedicated, this is a blog
yes, I
dedicated
did.
to exploring 9/11 and the hoaxery.
And
And now
Phil
that was
revived it
15
this
years
year.
after the fact,
Yeah,
right?
Phil revived
That
it.
was almost 20 years after the fact. So what I'm
Yeah.
asking is, do you think there will still be people talking about 3/11 in 10 years from today,
Yes.
the way that you, as just one example, and me and Tim Osmond and others still spoke about 3/11 15 years removed from it? That's what I'm trying to
Yes.
ask. In 10
I think
years,
so.
will this be as big?
I think so. It'll be bigger because 9/11 didn't affect the whole world. 3/11 does and continues to and will continue in a much bigger form in the future if everything they want to implement goes through. Like this whole idea of a more obvious world government will become more and more obvious. So people are going to ask, well, when did this start? Oh, yeah, 3/11. 9/11 was not a big thing in South Africa, but 3/11 probably is a bigger deal. So, yeah, I think it's going to be talked about because it's the root of all this biosecurity evil.
All right, well, time is getting away from us. Let's go to Tim Osmond of the Infinite Plane Society. Before we do, though, D-Train in the live stream comments said, thanks, guys. I woke up at 4 a.m. to listen to this. So thank you, D-Train. There is quite a live audience at the moment.
Yes, very big
Somebody
one.
asked, is this live? Yeah, this is live. So the moment that any of us four on the panel speak a word is when you hear it. And somebody else asked, who's on the panel? On the panel today is Ab the Fakeologist, who also goes by the name Tim. That's why I sometimes confuse the names, but he's Ab the Fakeologist from fakeologist.com, Tim Osmond from the Infinite Plane Society, and they have multiple different websites, multiple different outlets where you can find their work. They don't really have a central hub, but that is the Infinite Plane Society. And Fake Nukes Phil, whose primary hub is on BitChute, and there'll be links to all of that in the show notes below. And I'm, of course, John the Bond, coming to you from beautiful Plovdiv, Bulgaria. I run johnthebond.com and bombersations.com, and all three of the other panelists today have appeared on Bombersations at least once. Those are your four panelists, and we planned this ahead of time because tomorrow is 3/11, the 4-year anniversary of Tedros saying that this coronavirus can be categorized as a pandemic. So let's go out to Tim Osmond of the Infinite Plane Society. Do you think 10 years from now, so 15 years removed from the beginning of this nonsense, that this 3/11 event, the pandemic, the lockdowns, the masks, the jibby jabs, will still be as important among truthers and among the general public as 9/11 was before 3/11 came along?
I would say that 311 is it's analogous to 911, and I think it's designed to last that long, and it'll be artificially propped up. So I think 911 truth, which never got it right, had been around for the 19 years from 9/11 to COVID. They were still around, still getting it wrong because it was propped up, the controlled opposition counter narrative. Similarly, I think that the counter vax, the counter COVID agenda is going to be propped up by the alt media from here on out for the next, another, 19 years from 2020. So I think it will be around, but not like they're scared of it. Like we don't talk about, oh, we're scared of terrorists anymore, but we still reference 9/11 because these are contemporary myths, contemporary superstitions. And so I think that they reset our paradigm and it's going to stay in this way. We've all lost our presumption of innocence. We're all infected to proven otherwise. And they've managed to use this to leverage in a lot of anti-free speech agendas. So I think that the 9/11 new normal is going to be with us. The 3/11 new normal, rather, is going to stay with us. But are they going to be able to repeat it? I don't think so. I'm very skeptical that they'll be able to lock us down again unless it's for some kind of nuclear fallout. That's my
All
take
right.
on it.
And then Fake Nukes Phil, simple question, although it's a little bit convoluted when I try and word it the way that I do to get all the context in. But in 10 years, will the lockdowns and pandemic be as important to people as 9/11 was before this event came along to take over as the biggest event in recent history?
Well, it depends on if they lock us down again. And if they don't lock us down again, this will stand out in history. It's like, why'd they lock us down for a year back in 2021 or whenever it was? And so in my mind, I'm thinking they're going to have to do another lockdown because they're going to have to pretend like this is a real thing. They don't want it to be a standout in history. They got to make it like a thread. But it would be very costly and expensive for them to do it again. But maybe they've got all their money back, and they're with all this inflation that's going on. I know that rents aren't going to go down. I know that rents went up. That's what, and everybody's complaining about it in my neighborhood, and it's way expensive. People can't afford it, and so and as far as the 9/11 is the old. Here's the thing: here's what I always say: the older these events get, the easier they are to break down because they start looking like an old movie. It's just like when King Kong first came out, the gorilla looked real. But then after 15 or 20 years or 30 years, people go, oh my God, I can't believe people thought that gorilla looked real. And the same thing with like 9/11. It looked real the day that it happened. But the older it got, and once we saw the Hezer Kani film and the plane melting into the building, it's like, oh my God, that's not possible for an aluminum airplane to not break off any part and melt into the building. And not a single part fell to the sidewalk below. That's a physical impossibility. And so we didn't know that. We didn't see that. I wasn't shown that back in the day. Of course, I was working 2 jobs back in 2001. I was raising a daughter on my own. And so I didn't have time. See, I only when I got in my accident, when I had some time off, was I able to spend some time and look into these things. And I had to work on my internet skills. I had zero, like a boomer. Most boomers don't have internet skills. And so I had to break through that barrier also. And now I'm just like one notch above rudimentary. I mean, I barely get by on my internet skills, but I have enough to where I can upload videos, and that's about it. But I didn't know all this other information was out there. I didn't know there was another side of the story to World War II. I didn't know that. I was never taught it, and never in high school or college, never taught the other side of the story. And so it's very obvious that the communists won the war, and we are under Soviet propaganda. So, as I said,
you're getting a lot of comments in the live stream chat about your communist remarks. There are some people in the live stream chat who don't understand the communist references. Okay, so time is getting away from us. Question number 5, and for me, this is the most juicy of the lot. Let me read the question as I wrote it in the email. The 311 sinks, so Colony, Season 3, Episode 11, Seattle's going to be ground zero for the reboot of civilization. That's a TV show that came out before 3/11. Season 3, episode 11 mentions Seattle as ground zero for the reboot of civilization. In America, the first case of coronavirus, supposedly, according to the news, and all the first death were either in or around Seattle. Then you've got things like Tom Hanks is the first celebrity. He's the canary in the coal mine to get coronavirus. A few weeks prior to that, at the Golden Globes, he won this Cecil B. DeMille Award. And in his award speech, he said, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, 3/11, he goes on to be the canary in the coal mine. He's the first celebrity to get the coronavirus when he's in Australia. He was in a movie called Larry Crown. In Larry Crown, his character is called Lance Corona. In this movie, we see multiple 3/11s or 113s. Okay, and he is Lance Corona, Larry Crown, Tom Hanks. He's the first celebrity to get coronavirus. That's just a small sample of the 3/11 sinks. That's like maybe 1%. That's entry-level sinks of 3/11 with these celebrities, these TV shows, movies, songs, you name it. 3/11's up the wazoo. And of course, it was March 11, 3/11, that coronavirus was characterized as a pandemic. So my question for you guys is, what's your best explanation for these kinds of things? I've just given you a small sample, but I'm sure you know of more. Why in these TV shows, season 3, episode 11, do we see references to colds or to flus or to pandemics? How does this happen? Or another example, in the movie Falling Down, Michael Douglas in one scene is holding a bat in front of a corona sign while he accuses the shop owner of being Chinese. And the shop owner says, I'm not Chinese, I'm Korean. And Michael Douglas doesn't care. He smashes up the store. Falling Down was released on the same day as the World Trade Center bombings. So you've got the corona and the bat and a reference to China. The main character, Michael Douglas, in Falling Down, released on the same day as the World Trade Center bombings, 1993. Okay? Again, just one example. How do you explain this stuff? So let's go first to Tim Osmond from the Infinite Plane Society. I know that you talk about these things quite a lot. I call them sinks. I know what you call them, but you talk about these things a lot. How do you explain this stuff, man?
Yeah, it's nuance, and you're right. You've barely scratched the surface. I'm thinking like Office Space, 3/11, 2010, 10 years before the pandemic. They have an episode where someone at work has a flu, and someone's wearing a mask, and they all think it's weird. And the soundtrack has the song Cats in the Cradle, which is about sick kids and the flu. So there's like so many examples of predictive programming for 3/11, just as there was for 9/11. And my take on it is that when they build these contemporary myths, they have to build it in our minds first through repetition and programming. And so I think what we saw is that predictive programming does precede real events, and they have to saturate the collective psyche. And those of us who are paying attention are seeing how nuanced it is. And when it comes to someone like Tom Hanks, who's represented in this quite heavily, there's no way that they don't know that they're part of a dissemination campaign for some propaganda that is designed to soften our minds for what they're going to do. It showed me that this mind control thing is global, it's nuanced, it's planned in advance, and it is very sophisticated. So sophisticated that some people find it hard to believe that man could orchestrate these types of synchronistic occurrences. So my take on it, again, hardcore mind control predictive programming.
Okay, let's go to abdefakeologist and to fake news. So before we do that, so Tim, you say predictive programming. Explain like I'm 5. What is predictive programming? Is it that you're saying that they put these things in the movies and the TV shows and the songs ahead of time? There's a central group of people who know what they're doing. They know ahead of time that on 3/11 we're going to declare a bullshit pandemic. So in the decades leading up to that, we're going to tell producers and directors of TV shows, hey, in season 3, episode 11, make sure you have a reference to a cold or a flu or a disease. Like, are you saying that there are humans who know what's going to happen years or decades ahead, and they're telling directors or producers, hey, make references to coronas, crowns, kings, bats, all this crap in 3/11, season 3, episode 11s? Like, are they telling Tom Hanks, hey, bro, it's 2020 now. In a few weeks, there's going to be the 3/11. So make sure in your award speech for the Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille Award, make sure you make an obscure reference to whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. Are they telling Tom Hanks, hey, remember, in a few weeks, we've got the 3/11 thing, so reference 3/11? Like, are you suggesting there are humans telling other humans, hey, remember to put the references in there?
Okay, to answer that, let me bring up a very recent one. Trump kicks off his campaign in Waco the day after Netflix releases Waco, American Apocalypse. So what I've seen here is that there is a coordination between the entertainment media and the news media that obviously implies governmental control over both. And I'm suggesting that our news is written in broad strokes 5 years in advance, like news benders, and that they have the broad strokes and they have to implement it like a reality TV show. They have to implement it by faking the news to reflect the zeitgeist that's pre-scripted, and that these various actors, these various movie studios would have that monolithic entity representing with some level of oversight these propaganda messages. I mean, it's not a stretch. Governments have always had their hand in Hollywood. You can find examples of government and the Pentagon with their hands on movies for how they represent the world and how they represent governmental institutions, etc. So the idea that they have an overarching meta script that prefabricates our reality, that has its hands in entertainment and corresponds it to the news, that actually collaborates at some higher level. Yeah, that's exactly how I think it works. I call it the news bent reality. And to me, it's the only explanation that makes sense. They may be writing our news in advance and they can't perfectly implement it, but the predictive programming and the succinct timing between new releases and news events suggests a common author of both. And it's an extraordinary claim, but it's less extraordinary than saying it's all just coincidence and randomness.
Yeah, I don't think it was all so-called coincidence. I think there's a different explanation. You and I will have to talk about that more next time you appear on Bombasations. But time is getting away from us. Let's go to Phil, Fake Nukes Phil, coming to us from somewhere in America. I think somewhere near the border with Mexico or something.
Yeah,
These
Tommy
311s,
Horn.
right? Whether it's Tom Hanks or Colony Season 3, Episode 11, these so-called coincidences. Some people seem to believe that there's a bunch of humans who are ahead of time placing these references in pop culture for the purpose of seeding ideas in their minds or making it easy to get away with hoaxes later on, or there's some motive they've got to intentionally tell the other humans who they're in control of, hey, make sure you refer to 311s and crowns and kings and bats and shit. Make sure you do that. Other people say no, there's not humans doing this. There's some other explanation. What's your explanation, Fake News Phil?
Yeah, the predictive programming. I think the World Trade Center was built to be destroyed. So when they broke ground in 1968 to build the World Trade Center, the controllers of our world knew that they were building stage props. And the Murrah building in Oklahoma City also, if you look at the way it was constructed, the corners of the building had been reinforced so that it could withstand the middle part of the building to be blown out. That building was also built as a stage prop. Edward Murrah was a Freemason from Oklahoma. So, of course, they did a stunt there. I think in World War II was even predicted in 1862 by a guy named Moses Hess. He wrote a book called Roman Jerusalem. And in it, he predicted there'd be a war against the Aryans and the Jews would come out victorious. And that would be the New World Order at that point. So that was predictive programming also. And was Moses Hess a prophet? No. He was a Zionist. And so he had ties with the bankers. The bankers are the ones who make the events in this world happen. And so these people, yes, they know what's going to happen. This is all scripted. And the human events are staged and scripted. And it goes, so there's just a few examples. And yeah, I'm sure Tom Hanks, when he was definitely doing that in his little references to 3 and 11. That guy is just, he's not my fave. I mean, but then again, I don't like anybody in Hollywood. I really don't. So, but yeah, they're all controlled, and I agree with everything you're saying. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have.
Ab the fakeologist. So Tom Hanks is Larry Crown, is Lance Corona, and when he catches a cold, he doesn't turn up to class. So says the Bat, Rami Malek, who goes on to play the lead role of the show of the movie Queen. So Rami Malek is Queen, right? And in Lance Corona, Larry Crown, he's the guy who's wearing the Bat costume who says, maybe he got the flu. And they're talking about Tom Hanks, who is Larry Crown, who is Lance Corona, who is the canary in the coal mine on 311. How do you explain all this, Ab the fakeologist?
I'd like to take pieces of everyone on the panel's information. I really like Tim Osmond's idea that they have to put these ideas out there so when they do occur, quote unquote, in real life, people are softened up to them, so they're more accepting, even if they are ridiculous ideas. I think that they use, and I agree with Phil, that it's the bankers and the people, the rich families that they represent that write the scripts. They pay for the scripts, and they use the intelligence agencies. What do you think? If we're not at war with all these countries, if we're not really at war with Russia or China, then what are all these intelligence agencies and state departments doing? They are writing scripts. They are creating narratives. They are keeping us at each other's throats when we are cooperating. So they are dispatching their idols, which are the actors in Hollywood and Bollywood and NASA South and all these different agencies. They are promoting scripts. That's what they do. So when it does happen, you will be more accepting of it, even if it is ridiculous. And all these ideas about synchronizing and they just happen out of the blue are just not correct. These people are doing this out of complete and utter coordination. It is a coordinated effort through.
Do you think Tom Hanks is in on it? Do you think Tom Hanks is being given scripts? Like, for example, for his speech at the Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille Award speech, right? Because the Cecil B. DeMille Award is given once a year to somebody in Hollywood or in the film industry that has done amazing things, okay? So it's not an award for best actor or best actress or best screenplay. Every year they give this award to somebody to recognize their influence basically in Hollywood. So this year, 2020, the year in question was Tom Hanks' year. And in his speech, he mentioned how much he loves his family, and then he made some jokes about this and about that. And then he said that when you're an actor, it's those moments, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night, where you just have to go there, as in you just have to do your job, the other actors are helping you, blah, blah, blah. So he mentions 3 and 11 specifically. And of course, a few weeks later is 3/11. And then Tom Hanks supposedly gets coronavirus, he's a canary in the coal mine, blah, blah, blah. Do you think when he gave that speech, someone told him to say 3 and 11? Do you think it's scripted in that sense?
Absolutely. These guys, when they're off script, are absolute dingbat morons. When Obama is off script, he is a stuttering fool. When Tom Hanks, when Tom Cruise, Tom Kidman, I mean, just all these fools, as soon as they don't have lines, they don't make any sense. They're like robots without programs. They don't work. Everything is put into their head, and that's all they do. They are our false idols that people worship. People don't worship religious figures anymore. Just watch tonight. One of the most guarded streams in the world is the Oscar stream. Just try and get an illegal copy of tonight's idol ceremony of the Oscars. No, you have to go pay for it, because this is where they make money. People are paying attention to these clowns. They don't pay attention to any other group of people more than the clowns that are going to be on the Live Vision tonight with the Oscar ceremony. This is their pagan ritual tonight. It's a big one. So every word that they speak is written. It is thought through. Just as you said, the 3s, the 11s, all the numbers they spout off. They know that they repeat them because they go deep into people's subconscious, even if they're not closely paying attention. So they go into the subconscious, and when they hear them again in the media, they resonate. They mean things to people, and that's why they do it. So no, there's no coincidences. This is all heavily scripted. The money that is spent on these people is astronomical. And as we're getting so many great comments tonight, our audience understands what's going on. This is a very smart crowd here. They know what we're talking about. It does make sense to them. So if I just read the comments to all your questions tonight, we would get a very good representation of what's really happening. So kudos to the audience. What a great crowd.
It has been a terrific crowd tonight. Some of the comments have been terrific. Is this the most commentary you've gotten on a live stream for a while? I don't normally see this many comments on one of your live streams. This is crazy.
Oh, no, yeah. Look at the audiences we have. We got Fake Nuke Phil's audience. We've got the great JohnLeBon.com's audience. We got Tim Osmond, who is all over the place on the internet. He has his regular group. You recognize a lot of these names. So, yeah, this is an amazing conflagration and coordination of truth seekers. So we should do this more often. And you've been a really good host. I didn't mind hosting the technology, but since this was your idea, I wanted to give you top billing because you're the one that decided to bring everyone together. So I thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that. The original plan was for you to be the host, not just of the technology, but of the show as well. But that's okay. I think it's worked out all right. We should give everybody a chance to give us their final thoughts as well. I could sit
Yeah.
here and talk for the next 5 hours, but I understand you guys have other things you need to do as well. So
Yeah.
we should give everybody on the call a chance to just explain what they do with their platform, where people can find more of the information, any other final thoughts they have about 311, this 4-year anniversary. And I guess we can round out the show. And maybe, Ab, if you so dare, maybe take one more caller before we wrap it up. Since this is a call-in show, we did agree about that.
If we have
Maybe if one person wants to call in, we can take their question. But
Yeah.
while we're waiting for the call to come in, we should just give our thoughts so listeners who aren't familiar with us can find out more. So johnlebon.com is where I do my work, and I've just released in the last month a 4-part video audio series called Falling Down the Rabbit Hole. And in that, I go into a lot of detail about these 311 syncs and why I don't believe that this is all scripted. I think there's a different explanation that we don't have time to get into here, but I don't believe it's all coincidence. I don't believe that Tom Hanks is being given a script by somebody. I believe there is a different explanation, and I go into a lot of detail about that at johnlebon.com. And there's a ton of free content at johnlebon.com as well. In fact, I recently uploaded my chat with Toby's Freedom, with Zero One, with Ab the Fakeologist, with Linda Curtis, with Rolt, and a whole bunch of others from fakeologist.com. That's a 3-hour podcast that's available for free. And there's dozens and dozens of hours of free content there as well. But the stuff that takes me 10 hours per video to record and to edit and to upload, that stuff is for members, the people who support it and make it all possible. So lots of free stuff and lots of member-only stuff. A lot of my content does take literally hours and hours and hours just to produce a single hour of content. And I appreciate the people who make it all possible. That's johnlebon.com, and I'm JLB coming to you from beautiful Plovdiv, Bulgaria. Let's throw to Tim Osman from the Infinite Plane Society.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks for organizing this. I do think that we need to, somewhat maintain this for perspective. We can use 3/11, 2020 as a starting point for when we saw a great schism where a lot of people who we thought were seeking the truth got sucked back in to the matrix, and we're kind of living through the fallout of it. As far as the IPS, we're working harder on quarantining and separating from Trutherville, which is awash with a lot of misinformation and largely a lot of spam these days. So my focus these days is going to be networking, growing our channels by all means necessary, but also getting everyone on the same sheet as far as our presuppositions. So with that in mind, I released Auto Hoaxology 101 on Amazon. If you haven't read it, it contains all of the core ideas and the methodology of media skepticism that we promote here. It's not going to be censorable. It's not a compendium of fake events, but rather a philosophical take on how to approach media. So Auto Hoaxology 101, that's going to be my focus the rest of the year. And thanks for having me on. And thanks to all the chatters and commenters and callers, except for Boogeyman.
There's the book on the screen there. Good stuff.
Auto Hoaxology. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me on, and nice meeting you, Phil. Fake Nukes Phil. First time talking to you, and it was really good hearing from you as well. Thanks.
Yeah, you as well, Tim. Yeah. Thanks, John, for putting this together. This has been fun. It's an honor to be with you guys. You have great minds and you have great channels, and so the honor is all mine. All right. Thanks.
You should tell the people about your BitChute channel in case they're not familiar with your work.
Fake Nukes Phil on BitChute. Just type it in the search bar. I think I'm the only Fake Nukes Phil on there. So, and lately I've just been covering the Gaza thing a lot, and of course I've covered the fake nuclear weapons and a lot of fake things leading up to the war, what caused the war, and of course the school shootings and the bombings, 9/11, and it's but lately this Gaza thing has got me because they're giving me so much material, all these Instagram videos, they're just throwing them at me, and I'm saying, okay, well, I'll post them. If you keep making them, I'll post them. So, but you see, most people think these videos are real, but if you slow it down and look at it, they're putting fake blood on children, and they're pretending to rescue them out of buildings. They're blowing up buildings that are empty, and they're pretending to rescue children out of them. It's just, and they're using rubber babies. And so, only me and a few other channels, like 3 other channels, are covering it this way. And I think it needs to be covered this way because this stunt needs to come to an end. And we need to bring peace to the Middle East. basically there already is peace to the Middle East. We just need to tell everyone it's already there. Nobody dying. So anyway, our work continues, and we will continue. And thanks again, John, for having me on.
Hey, thanks all you guys for joining. So I put this idea out to you a few days ago in an email to say, should we get together for 311? And of course, you guys, Mondays are out for most of you, whereas for me, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, what difference does it make? So I was free tomorrow, but today worked for all of us. And this has worked out really well. So I appreciate Tim for hosting this on fakeologist.com and fakeotube.com. Of course, Tim Ab, the same guy, Ab the Fakeologist, and then Tim Osman, Infinite Plane Society, for being here as well. And then for you as well, Fake News Phil. And the audience feedback has been terrific. They're all saying we should do this more often. I think we should do this every 311 and maybe even every 911. So I think twice a year we should all get together, the four of us. Maybe even if we can find some other content creators who've got decent work that they can share, maybe get more people on a round table. I'd be all for it. But 311, I think every year I'll be doing something to mark the occasion. Because for me, this has been a life-changing event, maybe more so than for most people. And I think we've barely even scratched the surface of the esoteric elements of 311, which is what I focus on at johnthebond.com. But Ab, the Fakeologist, it's your platform, so you might as well get the final thoughts for this episode. It's been March 10, 2024. Big thanks to all the people who are making this possible through supporting your work and through supporting the Infinite Plane Society, and of course, johnthebond.com as well. But I'm just about cooked here, Ab, the Fakeologist. So you get the final thoughts, and then when you're finished, I guess that's the end of the show. Thanks to everybody for making this possible.
And thank you for your idea, John. It was a great idea. Thanks for the commenters. No callers tonight. That's fine. I really want to encourage people to support independent media, value for value. Pay whatever you think the show is worth. I'm sure Phil has a way of getting donations to him, probably on PayPal. I don't know, Phil, if you have a way, but
not yet. I haven't set up anything yet. I'm doing it as a hobby right now.
Yeah, but you'd probably be amazed what kind of support you'd get if you just put a little shingle out. But it's great that you're doing it for free too. I think whatever you think the show is worth, people should donate. And same with IPS, of course. He does a lot of work. John LeBon, it's his full-time job. So you should support everyone in whatever method they deem appropriate. For me, it's just you pay whatever this show is worth. I know people, I only really put it up mainly to support FAK853 because that does cost money. I do think it's a worthwhile video platform, mainly because I do think all the platforms are controlled to some extent. Even poor Phil, he can't get much of a showing in Europe because the whole EU is blocking his channel for the most part. So this is the future. It's going to happen everywhere with this whole idea of hate speech, which is just a new set of laws they're putting on top of all countries around the world for censoring. And as Tim Osmond say, it's to quarantine ideas. Just COVID is so-called a quarantine on this so-called virus, but really it's all about locking down ideas and truth. And we really have to put a stop to that. We really have to make people aware that this is a huge problem. So we have to support all the content creators because advertisers is an old model. The old models are dying off, and we're all on a level playing field now. Phil is the same as CNN. IPS is the same as Fox News. We're all on the same platform. JLB is the same as the New York Times. We all have the same platform. We just have the problem of getting people to our website, but they don't have anything on us at all because we can analyze and disseminate news just like they can because we're all on an equal playing field for the time being. So let's support all independent content creators and let's spread the word. And we do much better as well when we collaborate. We all have differences. We all come at this from a different angle. But in general, we know that the mainstream media, the old ways of disseminating info, they are lying and they don't work for us. They work for the people that own all the marbles. So let's keep it up. Let's keep sharing this kind of information and promoting the idea that we are right and they are wrong. We are not the crazy ones. Everyone else will come to our way of thinking one way or the other. It'll just take time. So I had a really good time tonight. This has been great. And support everyone here. And my show notes will be on my website. You can click all these guys from my main page at fakeologist.com. So thanks, guys. Really great time.
Yeah, good talk.
All right. All the best. Have a good night.